Hi there! I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about regrets from my freshman year of high school, which I compiled this list after talking to a few of my other friends, so hopefully these will help you out. My first tip is to choose teammates wisely, whether you're in a group or working by partners. Learn how to reject people politely and nicely. Do not feel pressured to work with someone just because they ask you to, and don't feel guilty if you say no. Because honestly, group projects are the bane of our existences as students. Don't just agree because you're friends with the person, especially if you know this person doesn't work as hard as you. There have been so many times this year where I had to stay up really late and do almost all of the work. It's not cute. Please make absolute sure that your partner is someone that you can work with. And if you easily get distracted if you're working with friends, it's probably better just to choose someone else. And don't be afraid to ask to switch groups if you feel like you can't work with this person or you're doing most of the work. It is your education at stake, so you have to hold yourself accountable. The next thing I regret was not going outside of my comfort zone. Instead, try to do things that you usually wouldn't do. For example, if you don't volunteer in class, try it, since that will gradually make it easier to do it more often. Personally, this year, I want to be able to ask questions and talk to teachers more, and not feel so scared to do it and instead make my friend go in my place. Because if I never do it, I'm never going to learn how to do it. Luckily for me, I was always over-prepared, which I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared because then at least I'll have everything. But I always carried around a lot, so it's really up to you. But so many of my classmates would end up not bringing paper or a pencil and would have to borrow from either a classmate or the teacher. The people lending you the supplies will become annoyed if you always borrow and you forget things all the time. It's just easier and faster for everyone if you bring everything that you need. The next thing I regret was not being confident in myself. Now this is easier said than done. It is so much easier to say, I'm going to be confident, than actually feeling like you're confident and thus acting on it. However, there is a difference between being confident and being condescending or arrogant. What I mean is to walk proudly with your head held high and not to be shy and always looking at the ground. Because, I don't know, I just always avoid eye contact sometimes with people that I don't know well, because it just makes me feel awkward. But try not to feel awkward while talking to other people, especially if in your first year of high school, because most other people are probably also feeling awkward. So the feeling's mutual. Even if you don't feel confident, if you pretend you are, it kind of has that mentality that makes you feel more confident. Fake it till you make it, you know? And try not to make a lot of self-deprecating jokes and bring yourself down. Instead, find things that you like about yourself. When somebody compliments you, accept it and thank them rather than denying it, because then, it just feels good to get compliments, you know? And also give out compliments. You could make somebody's day. Confidence can take a long time until you actually feel it. So stay determined and keep working on it. This is something I'm trying to work on this year, especially. Another one of my regrets was not meeting new people. Well, a lot of new people, because I obviously did meet my new classmates, but I didn't really talk to that many people outside of my homeroom class, which I should have done. I've said this before, but you should try speaking to people outside of your friend group, or people from your class, or people from middle school. For example, if you see a person every single day in the morning, try talking to them. During middle school and last year, I would always get to school early because I'd be dropped off. So I would always pass the same students and teachers. So then on my way in, I would just say good morning. And so like a bond was kind of established that way. This year, I saw this girl every morning because she would be dropped off at the same time I would be. So we would walk into the building at the same time. And I eventually built up the courage to introduce myself. And so we became really good friends. And if I hadn't done that, we probably would have never become friends. So it's very important to kind of go out there and like just try, because you'll never know how good of a friend they could be if you never talk to them. There is one thing though, however, I usually, if I see people wearing headphones, I usually don't, like, I don't want to interrupt them. Like, some people, like, probably wouldn't mind, but I usually stay away from people that are currently doing something else at the time. Okay, so I admit I did this a lot, but don't judge teachers based off your first impression of them. Because during the first few weeks, teachers can behave completely different than how they will later on in the year, since it is way easier for teachers to start out strict and loosen up throughout the year than vice versa. So there have been so many times where my teachers started out so strict and intense that most people, including me, didn't really like them. But almost all of the time, those teachers that I didn't like in the first week ended up being some of my most favorite teachers that were so funny and made the classes so much like fun and enjoyable. So try not to judge anyone at the beginning, since most people actually change throughout the year. So take breaks and relax. So I am a dual enrollment student, which means I take both high school and college courses at the same time, which can make it really stressful at certain points. And I was guilty of not taking breaks and always feeling like, oh, but I have something else to do. I should be doing something productive. What am I doing? Like, I would always spend almost the entire day in my room doing work and not spending time with like my parents. And like when family things happened, I was like, oh, but I have stuff to do, so I'll stay at home, or like I'll like bring my laptop with me to work on my essay at the party. Not that I really do much at parties anyway, but you know. So luckily though, I have an amazing group of friends, and we would do like FaceTime calls together, and we would like talk or play games together, and it was just like such a nice way to like refresh and just relax at the end of the week. Of course, this was after all of us finished our work, and sometimes we would also like FaceTime to help each other like study or do projects and stuff. So it was like so important to refresh so that we could get back to work focused and happy, since you're much more productive when you take breaks rather than trying to do everything at once. The next thing is to not procrastinate. And this is really hard because basically almost everyone procrastinates. But please, do not wait until the very last moment to finish things. Even if you work well under pressure, it is not fun staying up until midnight finishing a project. Speaking from experience, of course. You will feel so much better if you finish things beforehand. And of course, there's always that person in the class that waits until the night before something's due to start working on it, and then panic, and then not finish it and end up submitting late. Don't procrastinate on your assignments, because then you'll find that your classes begin to pile more and more work. So just do them when you first get them, or as soon as possible. It just causes unnecessary stress. Don't underestimate a class. Everyone is going to be like, oh, this class is easy, until the professor pulls out a pop quiz. Sometimes you'll feel like you don't have to study that much or at all, but then it turns out on the test it is way more difficult than you thought. So make sure you study for each class and don't assume that you won't need to. Even studying a little is better than not at all. This is pretty important. Check your grades often, but not too often. Like, they probably won't change that much if you check multiple times a day. Once or twice a week is probably good enough. But you need to make sure all of your grades are put in correctly, because there have been times where teachers may end up accidentally putting in the score wrong because of how it's laid out in the gradebook. And don't be afraid to ask them to fix it, but make sure you're respectful and polite about it, and either talk to them when they're not busy or email them, since if they're busy, then you don't want to interrupt because they'll probably forget. And if you have it, be sure to show your teacher the graded paper, the correct one, and make sure to thank them at the end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what I do, please feel free to check me out on Instagram and Tumblr. I post new videos on Mondays and Fridays until school starts. And remember, every day is a new opportunity. Bye!